today is we're going to be talking about the Power Platform and looking at the Power Platform through the maturity model lens. So today we will start with our recording in just the beginning, but as usual, we will end it before we go into our discussion-based portion of the meeting. So we have shifted it a little bit. We're going to do our introduction to the maturity model, how to get more involved in the beginning, and then we'll switch over to our monthly discussion after, because we have not been able to cover that important topic of getting involved in our previous sessions because the discussions were just too darn good. So to kick us off, Simon H., can you walk us through what the maturity model of Microsoft 365 is?
Okay, let's do that. So hopefully you've all got the slides on your screen, and I'm going to start with the overview. You should see the slide. I'm going to put the slides up so I can actually see what you can see. That's probably a really sensible thing. So the maturity model, as those of you that have attended this session before, is all about trying to create a set of tools and an approach to developing organizations around a set of different competencies that take you through making your organization better, for your given definition of better, at using technology to run an effective organization. And in doing that, we've set out a few different thoughts or guidelines in the way that we're trying to do it. The first one is that it's about creating a mechanism by which you can benchmark how good you are at a given thing. So let's just pick one competency at random. We'll pick communication because that comes up a lot in our discussions. Are you one of those organizations that really doesn't have a communication strategy and it's therefore completely open to individual interpretation about how communication should take place? Or do you have a process for doing communication? Is that process effective? Is it monitored? Does it have a feedback process to make it better and better? And this is what we do when we go up through the maturity model from level 100 to level 500. You'll see that in more detail in a minute. But what we're trying to do is give you a mechanism so that you can say, how good are we right now against an objective set of measures? And having figured that out, you can then pick an appropriate approach to getting better if better is what you want. So you can choose how, at a very granular level, you can say, we need to be better at this part for whatever business reasons you've got, and these are the steps and the approaches with the technology support that we can take to get better. And that, moving on, that lets you lay out both a business and a technical roadmap based on what's possible in the technology today. And the maturity model is designed to be flexible. So when new things come along, you can take advantage of those. So it's not built around the capabilities of today's technology, it's supported by them. Where do you want to get to? How good do you want to be at different parts? And what's your organization's culture and drivers? So that's really important. It's not about us telling everybody how they must run their organization. It's about having a flexible set of tools that say, yeah, but we're this kind of a style of organization, so we need to implement these improvements in this way. And having done that, it gives senior managers, IT people, business transformation teams, the ability to lead and support that strategic plan with a movement into making things different to what they are today, if indeed that's where you want to be. And make sure that you can align those implementation needs as you go forwards. So that if you're beginning your journey and you may be right down there at the bottom level, level 100, you know what that looks like, and you can say, we need to get to this level, and you've got an objective view of where you are, where you want to be, and what some of the steps and behaviors in between that are going to be. And as we've said, or at least alluded to, this is not just about the technology, but it is about understanding how to use the technology to change your organization. And it gives us a common set of terminology, a set of language where both the technical people and non-technical people can have that discussion. It creates a mechanism for, strangely enough, communication within the organization. And finally, there's this term, socialization. I like to think of it more about being social adoption. I might be a real apostle for getting certain things done with technology, but if the guy who sits next to me isn't so into the tech, maybe I need a way for I can carry him along with my enthusiasm. And so really this is about driving social adoption, being able to spread the love, spread the insight, spread the demand and desire across the organization, not just by those people who are already wedded to using technology as a tool for change. Right, deep breath, and we'll look at some of the competencies. Right now we've got a set of, about 8 competencies already developed. When we set out to build the model, we were very keen that it should not be driven by the technology. It should be driven by a set of things that underpin effective businesses. And every business pretty much has a need for the things on the right in some form or other: collaboration, communication, management of content, staff development and training, all those kind of things. So we've identified what a set of different competencies are and built a maturity model for each competency. There is some overlap, and that's a good thing. We've tried to keep that overlap sane, not break our heads too much. But that's where we've got to right now, is a set of 8 published competencies. We have a number of other competencies that we're working on. Some of those are quite hard, but we're in progress with infrastructure. We are looking at how to do security, and indeed debating whether it's different to or the same as or part of some of the others. And we're going to work on data analytics. And then we've created a set of supporting articles, things that define the principles of some of these competencies, or describe how you can effectively move from one state to another. So those are how to elevate. And let's just quickly remind ourselves what the different levels are. This is one of my favorite slides. And I talk a lot with the businesses and the people I talked about, these levels 100 through 500. The description is really important. I'm not going to share it in words right now. You can read that up on the Microsoft Docs site. But I do like to call people's attention to the keywords on the right. So if we look at the entry level, level 100, processes, approaches, thoughts are ad hoc, reactive, uncoordinated, uncontrolled. And then as you move up, you introduce more and more control without necessarily, or indeed hopefully without, introducing barriers. What you're trying to do is remove barriers while making your processes more predictable, better defined, and ultimately self-optimizing, so they improve themselves through the process. And that's it. That's my introduction. I'm happy to hand over to Emily, who will talk to you about, well, how do you get involved?
Thanks, Simon. So for the overview of the practitioners, thank you all for being here today. So this might be a reminder, but for our new faces, we always want to go over this aspect that this is a safe space to hone your pitch, test your thoughts, and decide how to promote the maturity model. It's a discussion-based monthly meeting. So about the first 15 minutes every month is our quick review of the maturity model and the practitioners and how to get involved. And then we spend the final 45 minutes discussing different items depending on the month. And this month is the Power Platform. So we can occasionally be changing our discussions. Sometimes it's going to be focused on different competencies. Next month, for example, we'll be talking about management of content. And in the future, we will cover things like running workshops and measuring maturity. We also love it when you share anecdotes and success stories. So also feel free to do that in the chat or share those when we dive into our discussion portion of today. So I'd love to hand it over to Marc to talk a little bit more about how to get involved in the maturity model.
And Marc is not on mute anymore. So we welcome lots and lots of different ways that people can contribute. It can be anything as as simple as just reading the articles and giving us some feedback. You spelled something wrong. I really think it would make more sense if you said it this way. To providing some tools that you may have created as you've practiced this stuff out in your organizations. You can socialize the content. You can talk to people, in social media and in forums and things like that. Refer them to the content. You can contribute via GitHub. The sharing is caring sessions that help people understand how GitHub works can be your on-ramp to that. If GitHub is too complex for you, you can always just get in touch with one of us and make your suggestions, but we always want to give credit to people. So doing it through GitHub is a great way to do that. And you could even go so far as to, presenting a case study or a story about how this has gone in your organization to this set of people, so that we can all learn from each other. One of the things that happens as people go, sort of through the levels of the maturity model is you start to learn how to tell the stories better. When you're first starting out at level 100 with something, there's not much to tell. We're getting by, but by the time you're at level 200 or 300 or 400, you've got some better practices. You've got some things that you can talk about. You can share what worked well and what didn't. And we would love to hear those stories, whether we write them up or together, or you write them up yourself, or we share them on these calls. So lots and lots of different options. We've got a core team of people who work on the maturity model. Most of us have our cameras on right now, but that doesn't mean that we're not very open to having anyone contribute. We really want this to be an open source community effort. The core team is just a bunch of people who, we've gotten together and tried to give this thing the leg up so that it starts to be useful. But we want everyone out there who's on this call, or anyone who gets some benefit from it, to be able to participate. And that's all I got. I want to get into the discussion, where it's fun.
Absolutely, and that's what we have next. So just a big thank you to everyone who joined us in April. You can see on the right. And then just to follow up on what Marc was calling out, David put the link in the chat to those sharing is caring sessions. But if you want to learn a bit more about GitHub, we have that first time contributor session coming up on Monday the 24th, and Community Docs is already tomorrow. So if you find yourself with some spare time around the East Coast lunchtime, please feel free to join us.